Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, W is for woohoo! It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how is it going?
It's going great. Although, Patrick, I have to admit to you that I think in our rush on Tuesday to get through the news that we had
didn't
to
have any
get
time.
through,
That's right.
I feel like we really neglected something that you brought up that I've been thinking a lot about, and that is that after you go outside,
Yes.
you come back in and you have dirty
And you're dirty.
ankles.
Yes.
Yeah. And the part that I really want to drill in on here, because I was curious, is it just your ankles that are dirty, or are dirty ankles a symptom of a larger problem of it's really dusty in LA, going outside just makes you dirty?
So this is tough, and this is something that Sarah asked me as well. Why are your ankles dirty? And I don't. So I when I go out, I wear really low rise socks. Low rise socks has become sort of my standard. If it comes up over my ankle bone, I'm not interested in it anymore. Sorry, socks. Times have changed. And so I will. I don't know why they specifically get dirty. I spend some of my walking time down at the trail by the river, the Los Angeles River, a notoriously dirty river, one that is paved. It is a trip. If you've never seen the Los Angeles River, you are picturing it wrong. Unless you've seen Terminator 2, in which case you got it right. You nailed it. But so yeah, I think part of it is I'm walking through some dirty spaces, but I'm not hiking. I'm not in the desert. So I don't really know. I don't really know why it's happening, and I don't know if it means that the rest of me is not dirty. It is just a dirty ankles thing. I assume the rest of me is also dirty. It's just a convenient collection point for dirt.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have not lived in LA,
yeah,
you probably don't know that LA is really dusty all the time for whatever
super
reason.
Dusty. Yeah,
when you park, I used to have street parking, so I parked my car on the street all the time. And you just got a layer of dust on your car immediately after washing it, because it's just happening all the time.
Yeah, I mean, an important thing to remember is that Los Angeles is located in a desert, right? It's a desert. It rains
I know,
an inch and a half here every year.
It's so hard to forget that, since it's the city of dreams.
Oh yeah, city of desert dreams. Look, Mark, we could go on and on about the city of Los Angeles. But what I'd rather go on and on about is the Sonic Forces borrowing program, because it is a perfect borrowing program. Would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch? You can. All you got to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at
gmail.com.
And just give us a mailing address where we can send this thing, and you can do with it whatever you choose. I mean that. Whatever you want. There are no rules here. So, live it up with my copy of Sonic Forces. Another thing, we are doing a whole month of Mario-themed episodes. We are starting that today. I understand it's still September, but all of October we're doing Mario-themed stuff. We are closing that out with our favorite Mario memories on October 29th. We have our own memories. A lot of you have been emailing us your memories. Look, I'm never going to say stop sending us memories, because I just want more. Send more. A lot of you have already submitted, and I love and appreciate that. But send more in. Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Or tweet at us at NinCard Society with your memories. Mark, what kind of memories are we looking for here?
The great thing about it is it can literally be any kind of memory. Maybe it's a happy memory. Maybe it's a sad memory. Maybe it's a memory of the time that you were trying to open a box of Super Mario Brothers cereal. You got a paper cut. It got infected. Your finger got amputated. Now you only have 3 fingers and a thumb. I had to count my own to
Okay.
like make sure I
And
was
then
getting that right.
and then a separate full other hand.
But the important thing here is that we need your memories in whatever form they come, and
Yeah.
please get them to us by October 27th so we can include them on the show.
Yeah, I can finally say that we are running out of time, right? This is that's the threshold of like a month and a couple days. We are slowly running out of time. Get those into us as soon as you can. This is not our run of show, but also speaking of things that we are running out of time on, please make sure that you're registered to vote and that you have a plan to vote. I know this is outside the purview of Nintendo Cartridge Society, but just seeing the president say that he's not sure if he'll accept a peaceful exchange of power should he lose the election. We just gotta just destroy this guy at the polls. So like, please make sure you're ready to vote, and also then please vote for Joe Biden. I don't care if that makes anyone uncomfortable. You should do it. It's just what needs to be done. Mark, we've got some emails that we should have addressed on Tuesday, but again, we just didn't have any time. So we're going to do it now. The first email is from Josiah. Josiah writes, have you guys tried Assassin's Creed, the Rebel Collection? That's the entirety of his email.
No, I haven't. I would be interested to know if it is worth picking up, because I remember when it came out, and but I don't know anybody who's played it. It's the first 2 Assassin's Creed games, is that right?
No, I think it's so I'm looking it up right now. It's Black Flag and Rogue.
Oh, okay.
The Nintendo website is asking me for my birth year. Okay. Yeah, so it's Black Flag and Rogue. So Rogue being the one that sort of like straddled the generations, and Black Flag being like the one, like the proper one after that. So I haven't played either of these games.
Yeah, me either.
So sorry, Josiah, we have not checked these out. For a second, I was like, is one of these the? I thought maybe these were the like Revolutionary War era games.
I think that's 3.
Yeah, it's 3, and then there was one for the Vita, which I don't remember the name of it, but I played a little bit of that one and did not care for it. Mark, generally speaking, are you an Assassin's Creed guy?
No, but I haven't tried to play one since Brotherhood, maybe? Whatever the first kind of like multiplayer focused one was.
Yeah, it feels like a spot that I'm woefully unfamiliar with, like in the gaming landscape, and one that doesn't seem so far outside of the kind of game that I would like. But just it hasn't gotten its hooks in me.
I also think like current Assassin's Creed is pretty different from like old school Assassin's Creed.
So thank you for writing in, Josiah. Sorry we don't have any more experience with Assassin's Creed. If you're playing the Rebel Collection, let us know how it is. I would be interested to know. Then we got an email from Shane. Shane writes, hey guys, I'm really loving the show and has quickly become part of my Tuesday morning. In the past, you have both referenced a preference for physical games over virtual. Is it a nostalgia thing to have a physical cartridge to pop into the system? I think concern over future backwards compatibility also came up. I have 2 young kids, and between keeping those things out of their reach and having everything preloaded as I try to play while moving throughout the house, I have found the virtual route to be great for me. I know that's specific to my situation, but I know many fans still prefer physical releases and was curious to know if there is a specific reason. Am I going to regret going digital down the road? Keep up the great work, Shane.
Shane, you might be thinking of a few weeks ago when the Mario 3D All-Stars collection was announced, and I said that I was debating getting it digitally or physically, and I ended up getting it physically because I feel like Nintendo's pretty good about like their hardware being backwards compatible at least one generation, but so far their digital stores have been like locked into the system that they debuted on. And for that reason, because I'm not sure the next time that I would be able to purchase like Galaxy or Sunshine or Mario 64, I wanted that like physically with the hope that like I'd be able to use that game card in whatever comes after the Switch. But generally speaking, I buy all of my games digitally, and I have since like the PlayStation, since like I bought a PlayStation 4. So like all of my 3DS games, except for Link Between Worlds and everything
Which
on
is
Switch.
that
And
still at is your copy of Link Between Worlds still at my house?
I think it is. Yeah. Yes. And then like everything I bought for PlayStation 4, like all of that is digital. So I'm all in on digital.
Yeah, I think that's also generally where I stand as well. I started the Switch generation being like, I'm gonna do it all physical, and I don't really know why I did that. I think I was there's like a little bit of holdover for me in like Amiibo is a physical product, and so like I think I was just sort of tying Nintendo to physical products at that time. So I would say the first like year or so of the Switch, all of the games that I bought, I've got physical copies of ARMS and Splatoon and Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and all of that. But since then, I've gone all digital on that thing too, with the exception of Mario 3D All Stars. And then I do not own a single physical copy of a 3DS game. I bought a very big memory card early, and filled that thing up. It's nowhere close to being full. That's how big the memory card is. But I've got probably 100 games on there. Do you think there's any danger in? I mean, like basically what we were saying as far as like backwards compatibility is concerned. But are there any other dangers to like buying digitally that we're not?
I feel like the
taking
other
into
big
consideration here?
downside is like you usually end up paying more.
Yeah, and you
Um,
can't share.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because we've mentioned that before, just like between ourselves, of like, we should probably just buy one copy of that and then share it, and then we don't do that because digital is more convenient. And then our final email today comes from Ashley. Ashley wrote in about our episode last week, which was about Nintendo Musos. Ashley writes, "Hey, I feel like you guys really missed a good idea. Mega Man Warriors Definitive Edition. You have so many options for playable characters. There's all the hero characters plus dozens of robot villains. You could have some new outside force of evil robots that the various hero/villain robots from the different games could all band together to defeat. Of course, blowing up thousands and thousands of robots along the way. So much gratuitous violence and explosions." Ashley.
That is such a good idea.
It's a great idea. I think that the one thing that makes me hesitate on it a little bit is I still don't know how like a projectile focused Warriors game works. You know what I mean? That like so much of it is like hack and slash that like to be conducting some of it at like a distance. Because Mega he's a distance fighter, right? He's not an up close and in the mix
Yeah, but
guy.
but like he's a brawler in Super Smash Brothers. Like
That's
I
true.
think you can
Short
make
range,
it work.
short range.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Also, I love the idea of incorporating, defeating the robot masters and like getting their
Mhm.
powers. You wouldn't even need to have that many playable characters if Mega Man is just like getting everyone's powers. Ashley, that's a great idea. I love it. Should we get into our topic at hand, Mark?
Oh wait, I just thought of something. One other reason why maybe physical games
Yeah,
are important. And
yeah.
it is because without you purchasing a physical copy of Sonic Forces, there would be no Sonic Forces borrowing program.
Great point. Great point. I can't lend people a digital copy of Sonic Forces. This is a wonderful point. All right, Mark, we are doing an ABCs of Mario. Let's get into it. Man, I think that's probably the first time that we've gone 13 minutes into the episode before saying what our our topic for the
Well,
episode was going to be.
it's Mario Month. Mario Month
Mhm.
is happening a little bit early, but that's
Or a
just
little bit
because
late.
we're splitting the difference.
Yeah, that's right. Look,
We're starting at a time
yeah.
that makes nobody happy.
Yes, it's a good old fashioned compromise. So obviously, October for us is the celebration of Mario's 35th anniversary. The last time we did an A to Z of a franchise or of a Nintendo concept, we had to split it up over 2 episodes. So we anticipate that that is the deal here. So we are just going to be doing the first half of the alphabet. Alphabet has 26 letters. We are going to be doing the first 13 A to M today. And like what kind, as you are picking your Mario A to Z, what kinds of things are you keeping in mind? Are you just like just different kind of enemies? Like, where's your head at as you prepare your list, Mark?
I kind of found it a little bit difficult only because Mario means so many things and there's so many different
Yes.
iterations of Mario that like you could kind of go anywhere. So mine is definitely not. I think when I first started, I was very focused on the Mushroom Kingdom, but the further that I got into this, the more like expansive it became.
Yeah, well, and it's easy to get like conceptual with some of this stuff too. So like, I mean, maybe it's better to just you're just setting the stage that like we have perhaps gone broad on some of these entries. Mark, we're gonna start with A. I will ask you to go first.
Okay, so I am going to my A is acrobatics.
I
And
love that triple jump.
yes, exactly. I mean, we have talked about on this show before, and I think, um, I mean, Mario as a character in like Mario games mean so much to you and I in just like childhood experiences, video game experiences throughout our entire life, right? Like
Mhm.
Mario, since I was a kid, like Mario has basically been there. And so like Mario different Mario games and different Mario releases uh like bring me back to a very specific time in my life each time. And one of the reasons why I love Mario games more than other platformers is there is a joy to
Yeah.
making Mario run around that is just like inherent in the game, and it's like magic. And so the acrobatics, like the moves that Mario can make, they just make me happy.
Totally. And like, Mario's been using a lot of the like he's always like generally fairly acrobatic, right? He runs, he jumps. But I think it's interesting that at some point, and then I'm going to pinpoint it, his like repertoire of like regularly accessed acrobatic moves was established as like he's got this triple jump, he's got the backwards like cartwheel jump, and he's got these sort of like crouch and like jump high. And a lot of that comes from Donkey Kong 94 on the Game Boy, which is like a tough thing to remember because it's like cemented in Mario 64, right? Which was 96, right? But I mean, all of that means that, we're celebrating Mario's 35th anniversary, but he's been doing this, he's been jumping the same way, he's been moving the same way for 25 years, which is awesome. It means you know what you're gonna get when you start making Mario run and jump around.
Yeah, and it's just interesting to see how like that move set has informed like the newer like 2D Mario games, like the new Super Mario Brothers games. Like you expect Mario to run a certain way. And it's even just like, I mean, going back to the original game, just like the simple things of playing
Mm-hmm.
so many NES platformers now is really frustrating because the jumps don't work the way you think they should. They're too realistic. Mario jumps are not realistic. You
No,
can
he can
like
change
make
direction in
a
the air.
he can change directions in the air, and it doesn't make any sense, but it feels so like perfect in a video game. And like that's the kind of stuff that Mario's been doing from day one.
That's acrobatics is really good. Um, for my A, first I just want you to know that I flirted with the idea of doing all stars, because obviously all stars the idea of like presenting Mario history. It's important that like Mario history remain Mario present as well. But my real A is going to be Albano, Lou Albano, the actor slash wrestler who played Mario on the live action segments of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. This is a guy so committed to his craft, at one point he was going to legally change his name to Mario. And that show's a garbage fire, right? Like, really, really
Yeah.
bad. I had a friend who picked up the first season of it on DVD in college, and boy, did we try to, like, watch it again, but simply couldn't get through any of it. I don't know how it's something that held our attention at all as kids. Um, but I love that they were trying something, and that this dude gave like all of his life force to trying to depict, an undepictable character. Like Mario, as we were just saying, is like kinetic motion personified. He is acrobatics. And Lou Albano like threw himself into it.
So the Super Show, for anybody who's not familiar with it, was a show that
Yes.
ran for like one. It was only a few months. I think it was. Well, actually, let me look it up. It was September, bet- between September and December of 1989, and in that
Wow.
time they made 65 episodes, and it was a syndicated show. It had like these live action bumpers, like you were saying, with like Lou Albano playing a live action Mario, living in their like basement of their Brooklyn apartment or like
Yeah,
building or something
it
like
wasn't
that.
clear. Yeah,
They
it was
had
almost a Mister Rogers Neighborhood like setup to their apartment.
Well, completely, because they had like live action guest stars that would come in. Like I think Cher showed up, Cyndi Lauper showed up, uh, and then there were also cartoon segments. It truly is awful, but it like looms so large in kids, in people's minds who are kids at that time, because we just wanted more Mario stuff. Just give us
Yeah,
more Mario stuff. And also Nintendo at that time was just licensing like crazy. Like they weren't the company that they are now, this like entertainment powerhouse. It was just kind of like Mario was this fairly new thing that kids really liked, and so everybody was just trying to make a buck.
man, I wish this guy would have changed his name to Mario. That would have been so cool. All right, moving on to B, I will start now with my B. I went simple with this one. I'm going Boo. He's a spooky ghost who's too shy to look at you when you're looking at him. I it's as far as like classic Mario enemies go, the Boo is so, I don't know, like it came into the world cute, right? Like all the rest of the Mario enemies became cute over time, but like at its very core, a ghost that is too embarrassed to look at you is adorable.
I feel like it also like boos are a great example of like what fits in the Mario universe. Like what
Yes.
like right like it's like what defines a good Mario character, and I couldn't tell you, because it's like all there are tons of different types of enemies. Like boos are right next to bullet bills, right? They coexist basically, and
Yeah.
you're accepting that both of them are like, yeah, this and those like football player guys, they're all
They all
Mario.
live together, yeah, or don't live together, I guess. But I love also the idea that the boos are like they look like ghosts, but like they're not actually the dead spirits of anything, right? Like that's the only way they've ever existed. They are some sort of like yokai spirits that are haunting ghost houses and whatever. It just feels like a uniquely Mario concept.
Yeah, I completely agree. So my B is also pretty classic. I'm going with Bowser, King of the
Yeah.
Koopas, the one
Mm-hmm.
and only. Um, I don't. So growing up, Bowser was Koopa to me. He was King Koopa,
Sure.
and then at some point like became Bowser. I think he was always Bowser, but uh, I don't know. I don't. When did that transition happen? Why did that like?
I mean, I think probably for Super Mario Brothers 3, right?
Mm,
Because in there are all sorts of like translation problems in like the original Super Mario Brothers instruction manual and like anything, any information about the characters or setting or whatever. I mean, remember the instruction booklet said that all of the citizens of the Mushroom Kingdom had been turned into blocks, and so when you break the blocks, you're like freeing them or murdering them. It's not clear.
yeah,
So I
that's
think
right.
he
It
was
was
King
kind of.
Koopa in that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, because that's we got Princess Toadstool, just because that's like how it was localized, and then later, when all of this started to become more organized, that's when they started like delineating these things. But Koopa's another great example, or sorry, Bowser is another great
Wow.
example
Wow.
of like kind of like the cutification of the Mario universe, because like Bowser in the first game, not cute in the slightest. But now,
No.
like, Bowser's adorable and he's a great dad. Like, yes, he's scary, but in like a fun way.
Yeah, well, and also if you, it's hard because like right now I was like reaching into the back of my brain to be like, what can I say about Bowser? But you and I recorded an episode like an hour and a half long ranking all the Bowser fights. So I feel like I feel like everything that I've ever thought about Bowser is already committed to tape on this show.
So moving on to C, my C is careers. Because if there's one thing
Mm.
that Mario has a lot of, it is different jobs. He's been a plumber. He's been a
Mm-hmm.
pro athlete of multiple sports. He's been a doctor. He's been a referee. He's been an F1 racer. He's been a time traveler. He's been a dance-off master. I don't know if that's actually a job or just something that he likes to do on the side.
But you do think time traveler is a job?
I think if you're getting paid for it.
Yeah, fair enough. He's also a construction worker, right? In I guess in Donkey Kong originally, and then in Wrecking Crew. So yeah, Mario has had a number of jobs. He makes sense in just about any context.
Yeah, and I think like Mario is absolutely like the mascot character of Nintendo, and his ability to like slide into pretty much like any position and it's still a joy to see him there is a real treat.
What do you think is the weirdest or the least likely job that we've seen Mario take on in any game? I have an idea. I have
I
a suspicion, but
I'm gonna say that I have a hard time believing that somebody of Mario's build is going to be a professional soccer player.
you think you just can't run that much, or
I just don't think he could run that much. I'm skeptical.
I think your skepticism is well founded. I'm trying to find the name of this game. So in Alleyway, right? You remember Alleyway? That was one of the launch games for the Game Boy. It's basically a breakout clone. Mario is piloting this like spaceship that like hits a ball back and forth. I don't think Mario makes sense as a spaceship pilot. I'm just gonna come out and say it.
You don't think he could be an astronaut? I
I
don't
think
know.
he could be an astronaut. I don't think he could be the pilot of the ship.
Okay, gotcha. He's the one who's like he's the scientist who's testing the effects of weightlessness on screws.
Yeah, that's right. Or he's the one that like you put in the spacesuit and just throw him out the airlock, and he's like fine with it. Mark, for my C, I am going with something a little more recent, a more recent addition to the Mario canon. I am of course using Cappy here. The spirit in Mario's cap, or the spirit that is Mario's hat. Look, I don't totally understand Cappy. Do you totally understand Cappy?
No.
But Cappy gives you the ability to take on the roles of all of the enemies in the Mushroom Kingdom that you've been battling for so long, and actually lets you take on their move sets, their abilities. You can fly around as a bullet bill. You can stack yourself up like a bunch of dumb Goombas. It allows you to experience Mario's world from the other side.
The thing I like about Cappy is that there's like an entire Cappy society. Like
Yes.
it's not just Cappy. Cappy is not really exceptional in this world. Like
No,
there's
that's
lots
true.
of Capsies.
Capsies? What's the name of Cappy's sister who's like the tiara? Who gets kidnapped for the I don't remember.
I was just gonna say Tiara. I don't know what the actual name is.
Maybe it's just tiara. Do you think we will see Cappy again in future Mario stuff? Or is it like Flood and like this is
Ooh.
the only time we're ever gonna see it?
Somehow I think that Cappy's a little bit more beloved than Flood is. But
What?
I think that I would love for there to be an Odyssey 2, and I would love to see more of Cappy there. I do think just like we saw with Link in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, that he became the Breath of the Wild version, that I do think that in a future version of Smash Brothers that Cappy will feature in Mario's moveset.
That makes sense. Then moving on to D, my D, I went super basic here. I'm going with Donkey Kong. There is no Mario without Donkey Kong. He is the generic, Mr. Video, Jumpman, whatever protagonist of the original Donkey Kong arcade game. And like the two series have been, it's so interesting to me that like Mario, who is like their flagship, icon, mascot character, comes from a game that's not about him, right? Comes from a game that's about this monkey, and the monkey was, suspected to be, or like projected to be, the draw for the game, and that Donkey Kong has gone on to be such a separate character and franchise. I think that, if we're talking about how great Mario is, we gotta shout out his original opponent, Donkey Kong.
I mean, listeners, you can't see this, but Patrick and I are shaking hands virtually through FaceTime because I also have Donkey Kong
Whoa!
for the letter D. I think that it's so interesting that the two franchises have obviously, gone in very different directions, but there is such like a synergy between the two that like when one shows up in Mario Kart or whatever, it's just like, yeah, like it feels very seamless where it just makes that certain amount of like Nintendo logic that also allows for, like a booze to exist.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's also something that like the expanded Donkey Kong universe has learned from the expanded Mario universe, right? Like that cast has been filled out in much the same way, where it's just like, oh yeah, just more characters like this, and more worlds like this, and it all just feels, very like comfortable and appropriate, and they belong together.
So my E, this one, okay, when I first was like, this is it, I was like, man, there's going to be so many examples. And there aren't really, but I still feel good about it. And that's eggs. E for eggs.
Okay.
Because you got Birdo,
Sure.
you got Yoshi, and then I ran out of things to have in a list. But those two feel pretty important.
Those are two pretty important eggs. There's the Good Egg Galaxy in Mario Galaxy, so there's another. Although I think it's a Yoshi egg, so I don't. No, I do think eggs play at least a semi-prominent role in Mario, if for no other reason than their association with Yoshi.
Well, I also like Birdo was a crazy character.
Yeah.
Especially when you first encounter them in Super Mario Brothers 2. Have we ever really gotten an explanation for why Birdo shoots eggs out of their mouth?
No. I don't think so.
That's the magic of Mario. Where are those eggs coming from? Don't they want those eggs?
And why is Birdo holding like a crystal ball in its stomach? Like what's going on there? It's all very confusing.
Why are there eagles in the wall?
Yeah, and why are they portals to other worlds?
But unimportant because it's not related to eggs.
Mark, my E is just that. It is the letter E for Egad, Professor Egad. Primarily from the Luigi's Mansion series. This is the inventor who makes Luigi's poltergust, his ghost-busting equipment, but also secretly, he's the man that invented the flood that Mario uses in Mario Sunshine. And he also makes appearances in some of the Mario and Luigi games. I feel like Egad is a support character that Nintendo is very cautious about deploying, because a super scientist or like a gadget man, like a Lucius Fox in the Mario universe, upsets the balance a little bit, right? Like you give one of the Mario Brothers new tech, and suddenly the whole game has changed. But I love that element of chaos about EGAD.
Also, did you know that EGAD, I just looked it up, so I did not already know this, but the E stands for Elvin, Elvin.
Oh, that's so good. I also think he's very funny, especially in the most recent Luigi's Mansion. His voice is very funny, and he just says funny things to you. So
yeah, I love his little gibberish.
I love his gibberish. I love his dumb little hair and like one giant tooth in front. He almost looks like one of the baby characters. Have we ever seen Baby EGAD? I'm asking you this.
That is a baby Mario character I would die to see. I would die to see it.
Mark would die to see it. Um, I get the first F here. I believe yes. Um, Gonna go with Fuzzy. Touch him and get dizzy. There there is a level in Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island called Touch Fuzzy Get Dizzy, which introduces these like um, what even are they? What are they? They're just like
They're
spores or something.
floating. Yeah, they're spores. I think that's it. But they're fuzzy. That's the
Yeah,
important part.
they're fuzzy, and when you touch them, the game is like engage the Super FX 2 chip. We are warping reality here. And the background and the foreground, everything gets all wavy and cool. It is one of those moments in Yoshi's Island where the game reveals itself to be like so much, like just more than what it had been. Like it unlocks a new dimension for that game, and it's all because of that weird little enemy.
Well, my F is actually it is Flood from
Very
Super
good.
Mario Sunshine. And wait, let me get its proper name. It is the Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dowsing Device. And the reason why I like Flood, I like Super Mario Sunshine. But one of the things that I think is really interesting about Flood, and you had already brought up Cappy, I kind of feel like Cappy is uh, the refinement of Flood. It's
Sure.
basically I feel like the first we've had power ups before in Mario games, like that's a fundamental part of it. But the thing that's interesting to me about Flood is it's like the first time in a Mario game that they were like, and here is like a game changing mechanic
Yeah.
that you have to master in order for this game to work. And in Super Mario Sunshine, there are those levels where like they remove Flood and it's back to just like the more traditional Mario movement. But Flood is such an important part of how you get around in Sunshine, just like Cappy would be later, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this like the gameplay is centered was built around this like new mechanic.
I think Flood is also interesting too because I don't know that it has a personality necessarily, but it does speak to you. And it's like clearly robotic, so it almost feels like a Star Wars droid, like it's a little bit C3PO, and that it's like very proper, and like isn't gonna like offer an opinion that's going to like upset you or anything like that. So like it is cool that they were introducing this new set of mechanics that, like you say, you have to master for like the entirety of the game to work, but then also like stapling a little bit of a personality onto it is just cool.
Mm-hmm. So next is G, and my G is Super Mario Galaxy.
Yes. Have
I
you
think
started playing Galaxy in 3D All Stars?
no, not yet. I still plan to do it chronologically, and I'm still
Mm-hmm.
making my way through Super Mario 64. But for me, like Galaxy is kind of the first modern Mario. I
Yeah.
think like when you play Odyssey, uh that is like the basis of that is Galaxy, and more than it is like Mario 64 or Super Mario Sunshine. Those feel of a different era to me, and Galaxy is the beginning of modern Mario.
Galaxy also formalizes Mario's relationship with space, which is so unique. We were talking about him comically being an astronaut before, a spaceship pilot. But the fact that like Mario can be in space and he can traverse planets by jumping between them, I mean, it's so fun and chaotic and energetic that like it just doesn't make any sense at all, but I love it. And it feels so natural. And like, there's a part in Super Mario 3D World where you go up into space, and it's just like, yep, this is where we should go. This is the next logical step in this game. Space is just a part of what Mario does now. That's all because of
Well,
Galaxy.
yeah. Plus, you got like it introduces Rosalina and the
Mm-hmm.
Lumas. The fact that you bring up the gravity is really interesting because we talked about Flood and Cappy, and I think those are the most like memorable of these new Mario mechanics that are introduced in games because they're like personified. But the gravity is completely
Yeah.
that. It's just like not put into like like hourglass, or I don't know what you would use to represent gravity.
There are yeah, I don't know either, like a black hole. There are parts really early in Galaxy where you are running around like the outside of a tube, right? And like once you get inside the tube, then like you are, kind of moving around the circumference of of the thing, and so like the gravity changes from like uh, being drawn towards the center of it to being like up and down, right? Uh, and up and down are determined by like arrows on the thing. So it's like three different planes of gravity happening like all in the same. It's just so cool. I can't get over how cool Galaxy is. Mark, maybe less cool, maybe more cool. My G is Geno or Geno from Super Mario RPG, the enigmatic character who seems to be on his own quest to fight evil throughout the universe, and takes on the identity of an action figure of a Toad kid that you run into over the course of Super Mario RPG. He's just so, I mean, we've talked about this character a lot and Mario RPG characters a fair amount, and he's just so cool. He's got this like he almost looks like Blue Link in a way, except instead of like a tunic, he's wearing like a cape, and he shoots like magic stars out of his wand. He's just so cool, and all we've ever look. I normally am like, hey, we need to cool it with Smash Brothers like guest character, hype or speculation or whatever. Like everybody, let's calm down. And then when we did get King K. Rool, I was like, okay, you're all sick. Let's knock it off. But if Geno were to come to Super Smash Brothers, like I'd go back on all of it. He'd be a perfect addition to that game.
I also think he's the perfect one because we haven't really brought up very many of Mario's like spin-off series.
Yeah.
And Mario is in so many different types of games that like you could do an entire celebration of Mario RPGs because like the games are so specific and so like unique that it could be like it's an entire own thing.
Yeah, and Geno rules. He should be in all the Mario RPGs. There should be a Geno RPG. Like, come on, cowards, do it. Okay, for H. Again, back to basics on this one. I'm going with the Hammer Bros. They are a persistent enemy type. They're in the original Super Mario Brothers, and it feels like an enemy type that they're not everywhere, right? They're always like deployed at a specific point where it's like, no, but right now the game's going to be just a little bit harder, you have to like actually deal with the fact that it is jumping around, throwing hammers at you, and it's also a power up sometimes where you get your own Hammer Brothers armor, and like it's one of those things where I don't know where this concept comes from, right? Who was like, yeah, so there are turtles that are like walking around, but some of these turtles stand upright, have helmets, and throw hammers at you. Like I just don't know what the math on that is. Where does it come from?
It's also I feel like you see the Hammer Brothers more in like traditional 2D Mario games than you do the 3D games.
Oh,
I'm trying to think at all of like Hammer Brothers in 3D games, but even though you have that like I think it's just a great example of how like there are different types of Mario gameplay, but the Mario universe is all just like one like weirdly cohesive thing where I hadn't thought about it until you were talking about it. That like, yeah, I don't know that Hammer Brothers have ever shown up in a 3D Mario game, but that doesn't they're still such like an important part of the experience.
I think they're in Galaxy. I think they're.
You think they're in Galaxy?
Yeah, I'm also pretty sure that they're in 3D World. Maybe I'm thinking of 3D World because they're definitely there.
My H is haunted places.
Yeah.
Mario characters like to go a lot of places. They love to go. I mean, I don't know that they love to go to haunted places.
They
end up going there all the time. They're going to ghost houses. They're going to haunted hotels. They're going to haunted ships. They're going to haunted woods. They're going to haunted galaxies, entire galaxies that are haunted. They and it's some of the most like fun to me because I feel like they are such a break from the other types of Mario levels. Like think of the ghost houses in Super Mario World. Like they play very different from the other levels, especially
Totally.
like the first one that you encounter, like the first time you ever encountered this like ghost house, they're much more like puzzle based. They are not as straightforward as just like the other levels in that game where you're just trying to go from left to right.
It's an effective tonal shift, which I feel like doesn't normally happen within a Mario game very much. Especially like to use your example of Super Mario World, that so much of it is just like fun and friendly and light. And then yeah, I guess the castles like present their very own like menace to them, but like that's sort of just like okay, now we're serious. Whereas the ghost houses don't feel serious; they feel mysterious. You know. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that the haunted spaces. What sort of haunted spaces haven't we been to that we'd like to see more of?
Hmm.
I
Um.
think we've seen ghost ships, but I'd like to see more of them. Maybe ghost spaceships, like get a real Event Horizon going on in a Mario game.
Well, and that would give him like a legitimate excuse to fly a spaceship.
Yeah, which again I still don't think Mario is well suited for.
Okay, so my eye is ice capades.
Okay, my eye is very similar. It is the ice flower, but I want to hear ice capades.
Okay, so it's very similar to the Super Show that we brought up earlier. In 1989,
No way.
there was a televised ice capades show on ABC, and a segment in it has Alyssa Milano and Jason Bateman. They are backstage and they're just like, being very late 80s teenagers, and they come across some people playing Super Mario Brothers, and they're like, Jason Bateman's like, "Oh my gosh, it's Nintendo. This is awesome." And Alyssa Milano does like the biggest eye roll in the world. She's like, "I don't get it. I don't care." And Jason Bateman's like, "You've got to play Super Mario." And so he, for the audience at home, he breaks down like, this is Mario. He's like this guy, and you're trying to avoid these enemies. We're trying to kill like the evil Bowser, King Koopa. And then the TV starts to get really wavy, and he's like, "Oh no, it's a computer virus, and like King Koopa is taking
Sure.
over the world." So then we cut to like the Ice Capade stage where Mr. Belvedere, what is that guy's name? Um, Christopher
Ooh.
Hewitt
Mm-hmm.
is playing King Koopa. He's playing Bowser, and then there's like Spinies and like Hammer Brothers and Goombas that are out there on the ice, like knockoff looking Luigi and Mario characters show up, and like Luigi's using a smoke machine to destroy the enemies. Princess Peach, like Toadstool, shows up, and she has a Mae West accent. It is wild. It's like 10 minutes long. It's on YouTube. We'll include a link in the show notes. It is such peak, like we were talking about with Super Show, where it was like Nintendo had no
Just
control. They're
try
just like,
something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
amazing.
I have been watching this thing quietly on YouTube as you've been describing it, and you are doing a very good job, but you are not doing it justice. um, when Peach and Mario and Luigi are all like full body costumes, meaning that like they're not like dudes in like overalls. They're like big like
Right,
mascot
they're like those
heads.
like mascot type
Yeah.
things, but they look like the Times Square or Hollywood Boulevard version of them.
Yeah, that's right. This is amazing. I did not know this existed. How did you come across this?
Well, I mean, I did not know about it until today when I was doing research for this. I was looking up other stuff, and like Alyssa Milano came up, and I was like, what is the Alyssa Milano connection to Mario? And
Yeah.
thus Ice Capades was presented to me.
Wow. This is incredible. I sort of just want to make you talk for another 2 minutes so I can finish watching this thing. But it is out of control. Everyone should check this out. The green makeup on Mr. Belvedere in the Bowser costume like the costume covers like the top of his head. So he's not like, it's very clear that they wanted you to know that it was Mr. Belvedere, because it's a very pale green makeup that doesn't even cover all of his face. He, much like Cesar Romero, didn't cut off his mustache to play this character. Um, this is wild. Mark, thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Yeah, everybody should check it out.
Everyone should. So I guess my ice flower thing was not that similar. I'm just talking about the ice flower, the variation on the fire flower, which freezes your enemies instead of just knocking them, out of the game. I think it's interesting to me that it is the one time that they've tried like a variation on a Mario power. I guess you could maybe argue that the Super Ball is like a variation on the Fire Flower. Um, but yeah, this is just a weird little thing that you can turn your enemies into frozen blocks and then toss those blocks around.
Yeah, I think that the ice flower did not make it very high in our ranking of Mario power-ups. It's definitely not my favorite of the Mario power-ups, but it is a very solid eye.
I mean, I think one of the reasons it ranks so low is that the penguin suit gives you all the same abilities, plus you look like a penguin. So, like, you're going to lose to the penguin suit. Sorry. Mark, for my J, I went with Jump Up Superstar, because it is the song that it accompanies the festival segment of Super Mario Odyssey, and is just such a wonderful piece of music. And I there's something magical about this song, because like I hear the lyrics and they are saying like trite, pointless things, like jump with me, get coins with me, oh yeah, it's time to jump up in the air, and all this stuff. And it drills down into like the fundamentals of what's fun and what's appealing about Mario, and is like genuinely moving to me. Like it actually makes me well up a little bit, being like, Jump Up Superstar is expressing what I like about Mario.
I completely agree. I love that song so much. I remember when we first heard it at E3 2017, when we were first learning a little bit more about Super Mario Odyssey. And I was so taken aback at first because it was so different from anything that we had seen before and anything we had, like, I was ever expecting to see in a Mario game. And it really is like one of my favorite parts of that game. And I completely agree. I mean, that kind of rolls like right into my J, which is just joy. Like Mario brings me so much joy, and I feel like the character himself just like exudes joy. And this is such like a perfect example. Like, or Jump Up Superstar is such a perfect example. I was reading through the the PowerPoint presentation that Nintendo put together for their like the business meeting that they just held a couple of weeks ago. And when they're talking about their Nintendo's mission, it is to like find ways to like bring smiles to people's faces. And I feel like that is such like the perfect encapsulation of what Nintendo strives to do and what differentiates it from other video game companies. And I feel like Mario and Mario games are like, they are the flagship franchise for Nintendo because that is a character. Those are games that exude such joy.
Yeah, I've said before that like Mario to me feels like, and it's not universal, I'm sure, but it feels like our generation's Mickey Mouse, where like I'm just going to be happy to see that character. Like, it just reminds me of so many good times, and like times when I'm actually genuinely having fun, not watching something fun, but just actually genuinely having fun. Joy is a perfect J.
So for K, I decided to go with Kart for Mario Kart because as far as like, it's kind of nuts that not only does Mario have like his mainline platforming games, but he has these other like franchises that are just as big as any of those games, and Mario Kart is one of those franchises that also like I have so many great memories of playing the different Mario Karts at different times in my life. And it also does this really magical thing where, like, yes, it has like Mario characters, and as the series has grown, it has characters from different franchises. But like the levels are generally like they don't have anything to do with locations that you've seen a bunch before. Like, yeah, you might have Princess Daisy's cruise ship, you might have like things that are associated with characters, but it's not like, like Wario's pinball is a level that we all know and love. But
Right, from somewhere else, you
before,
mean? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so, Mario Kart is great. I don't really have to say more than that, probably.
No, it's true. Well, and also like Mario Kart is such a successful franchise that it almost eclipses like Super Mario Brothers. It is the number one best-selling game on Switch. So like, yeah, Kart is a huge part of Mario's identity. My K, I went with Koji Kondo, who is responsible for the music in all of the early Mario games and a lot of the sort of classic Nintendo tunes. He is the composer and is a master of like simple counterpoint, very clear. The sound chip set in the original NES is so like limited, but it has become. I don't know why. It's probably just because we heard it a bunch when we were kids, but like the sound quality of early Mario games um, has such a firm spot in my heart and in my musical tastes. And I think a lot of that has to do with Koji Kondo's craftsmanship, using those tools to make something truly wonderful. Obviously, it was a huge controversy when we knocked out the World 1-1 theme out of our Best Nintendo Music contest right away. But like, was that a crime? Sure. Yeah. Were we wrong? Probably. But yeah, I mean, Koji Kondo is he's the father of Mario sounding the way Mario sounds.
Well, and it may have been controversial. I still think it was the right choice. What
Me too.
did continue on was Steam Gardens, and that cool like guitar riff, like that music is written by Koji Kondo.
Great point. Um, Also, I wanted to just put a real human being in this at some point, because it's important to remember that for as like mythical and big and magical as Mario is, there are human beings that made this thing that we all love and transports us into another time and place. Okay, so for my L, I am choosing the library from Super Mario Galaxy. Perhaps one of the less talked about parts of Super Mario Galaxy, just because the gameplay is so fun, is that there is a sort of tucked away story that is there for you if you want to engage it. All you have to do is go to the library on Rosalina's mothership, and she reveals to you the story of how she came to be the mother of stars. And it's a super cool storybook retelling of like it's a little bit a Little Prince, it's a little bit just like Girl Lost in the Galaxy. It's super sweet, very sad, and the music is beautiful. I love that whole sequence from Galaxy.
Yeah, apparently, so the director of Super Mario Galaxy is Yoshiaki Koizumi.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he wrote that storybook like in a night and didn't really tell any of like the other like developers that he was working on it, that was like something that he really wanted to put into the game.
That's very sweet.
My L is Luigi. Gotta give it up for the original Big L.
Mm-hmm.
What I really appreciate about Luigi is how like Nintendo has found a kind of like a niche for Luigi. Like, originally in the games he was just a palette swap of Mario, but as the series has gone on, he has gotten his own personality, and that personality is an adorable one because he is such a coward.
Such a coward.
Like Luigi can be weird in a way that Mario isn't. Like when Mario Kart 8 was first released, and everybody went crazy over Luigi's like death stares in the replays when like other carts would pass them and stuff like that. Like that's the fun kind of stuff that Nintendo does nowadays, and like that they would never do with like Mario himself. And so I love that Luigi exists for those types of moments.
Also, hey, I mean, like, don't overthink it. A Mario that can jump a little bit higher, like, yeah, yeah, give it to me. I love it.
So
I debated having my GB Green Mario, but I'm glad we got to Luigi on this.
So, for my I debated a number of things. I'm glad that you called out Koji Kondo, because I really did want to talk about like Mario's music, and not just Koji Kondo, but like Mahito Yokota, Naoto Kubo, Suyo Fuji, like, and that's just a handful of like the many people who have made amazing music for Mario games. But I feel like we can't really do this without talking about Shigeru Miyamoto, kind of like the genesis of it all. I don't really know that I have like anything to say about it, about him in particular, but he's just like another one of those persons that he does such a great job of, in public anyways, like embodying what you want from Nintendo, that like that joy, that he exudes happiness in his public appearances. And I'm sure that's very tiring, but he's a good sport about it.
I mean, also just like every and like you said, it may just be like a public facing thing, but even when we get little bits of information about him as like a private person or as like a working person, it seems like he is always conceptualizing gameplay in a way that like no one else is. Like he's looking at a holistic gameplay experience, and thinking about the games that we subconsciously play in our real lives. We've talked about it on the show a couple times before, but like there was a period where he would just carry a tape measure around with him and challenge people to be like, how long do you think that is? And then they would all guess, and then he would measure it, and then someone would win by being the closest. It's that like commitment to the concept of game, that I think makes him so special, and by extension makes Nintendo products so special. Mark, for my I feel like I'm bringing us down from that very logical endpoint of Shigeru Miyamoto. But my M is Mary O, who is the support character in the Super Mario Maker games, who answers your questions. So when you like go into the help menus and want more information about how to lay the piranha plants and make them pop out of the pipes faster, Mary O, who is just like a nice lady in a vest, and like wearing a headset, appears and tells you how to do it. And it's also very cute that her name is Mary O. Mary O.
Is that you said that was in the first game?
In both of them.
Oh, do you know what? Confession time. I've never actually used the builder tools in Super Mario Maker 2.
You know what? I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I am just consulting the Mario Wiki right now. She does not return to Super Mario Maker 2. My bad.
Well, you could have fooled me, because again, I would never know.
What would be the point of fooling you? She's accompanied by a pigeon named Yakamura, and the two of them together help guide you through the sometimes too complicated tools of Super Mario Maker. I guess only the original, though. I did not know that she's not in the second one. This is mind-boggling to me. She is she is a legit human character in the world of Mario. In fact, maybe not even within the world of Mario. She's maybe just within the world of Mario Maker. But that's cool. And I think we should have more helpful, supportive, nice ladies like Mary O.
Yeah. Wait, is it Mary O or Mary L?
Mary O.
Oh, Mary O for Smash. Hashtag that.
There we go. Also, I was playing Ring Fit Adventure this morning, and I was like, man, if they don't put this Drago guy in Smash Brothers, they are messing it up. He's got to be one of the new characters.
I love Drago.
All right, Mark, those are that's the first half of the alphabet. We've done 13 letters. Let's close this out. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Tune in next week for the latter half of the alphabet. Normally at this point I'd be like, what are your things? But we'll wait on that until we reach the end of the alphabet. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, share it on Facebook or Twitter. Wherever you do that, we appreciate it. It helps us out a bunch. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8BitBetty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying check out that Ice Capades video. And thank you for listening.
Hey, Rachel, Oscar.
Yeah, Claire?
Do you love Disney movies?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen them all?
Not all of them.
What do you guys think if we watch them all in chronological order and then talk about them?
Ooh. Oh, and what if we could talk about it with some of our favorite friends?
I love that.
Yeah, what if we do it inside the Disney Vault?
You know, that's the name of our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault on Campfire Media.
Yeah, check us out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to yours.
That's Inside the Disney Vault.
Let's go!
Woo!
Campfire.